Hey, welcome. My name is Byron Gonzalez. I am the music director here on the Latin Alt, and thank you for tuning in. I am joined by the wonderful singer, songwriter, guitarist, vocalist. She's amazing. She's also an activist and just released a brand new album called Resistir. Her name is Renee Goust. Yes, just like a phantom, because she's going to pass through you and give you chills. How are you, Renee? How are
I'm
you
doing
doing?
good. How are you, Byron? Thank you for the invitation.
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. And we're going to play some songs in a little bit. So I'm really happy for the little live performance you're going to give us, especially because we haven't seen live music in a while, you know? And you've
It's
been playing live.
it's been so long. Yeah, I mean, my last real full concert was March 7th, I feel like. But I will be playing some shows soon. I'm going to Chicago September 15th, and I just played Celebrate Brooklyn. Sorry, September 25th in Chicago. And I just played Celebrate Brooklyn a few weeks ago. So it's been fun, slowly starting to come back into stages, but excited to sing for you virtually. I feel like we've really gotten used to that as well.
Yay. I know. It's a normal thing now. That is our new normal. But yeah, thank you for being part of the show tonight. And you, congratulations on your brand new album, Resistir. It's a beautiful little album with great Mexican sounds and traditions all packed up and flipped in the sense that the lyrics are very much inclusive and brings awareness to the LGBTQ plus community, which is unheard of in this type of music, you know. But first, I do want to talk about a little bit about your past in the sense that, I have read that you used to cross the border a lot for school and that you live dual identities. But I do want to know when that love for music started. Do you remember your first memory of you connecting with music?
I do. I started writing music when I was very young. My first instrument was the piano. I actually just got myself into a piano. I'm so excited. I'm going back to piano. But my first instrument was piano. And I would study like very classical stuff. And at one point, I remember improvising upon those like really standard exercises. I was like, oh, like I would like repeat one of the things on the left hand, but my right hand would do other melodies. And I was like, oh, and I don't think
Oh,
I realized I was composing, if that, but I was very young. I must have been like, 7 or 8 years old. And then shortly thereafter, I started to actually play chords and sing on top of them. I remember very clearly a strong influence of mine was Shakira. I was 8 years old when she dropped Pies Descalzos, that album. It really impacted me because she was singing about these things that I felt like I hadn't never really heard on pop music. And so that's when I was like, oh, I have to play guitar. And when I was 14, I self taught with the music theory that I had learned through piano. I self taught guitar and I started really songwriting like a lot, a lot, a lot. And ever since, I was like, when it was time to choose a career in college, I was like, I'm going to go for music. And that was a funny, interesting decision. But, I was supported by my family and I've been doing music ever since. Yeah, my whole life, basically.
that's really cool. And that's kind of it's the opposite of what, in a Latino household, a lot of Latin parents don't support that. So I'm happy that they were able to, and now look at you.
You know what? Actually, my piano, I had a teacher who was piano, guitar, and vocal teacher. He was like super, he was amazing. And he said to me, you can't let your talents go to waste. Like, what are you going to go to school for? And I was considering political science at the time
Okay.
because of how inclined I am to like activism and stuff. And he was like, no, no, you have to bring your mother in. And he was very like, he was like,
Adamant.
you can't waste, yeah. He was like, you can't waste your talent. Like, and so, I did want to go. I think I was maybe a little scared to do like music, because like they teach
Hmm.
you can't really make a living and whatever. And my mom came in and he spoke to her and he was like, su hija tiene mucho talento. He was very like, and she's going to music school. And my mom was like, are you sure that's what you want? And I was like, yeah. And so they were very, where they were like, it's your life. Just like know that this is your life and you will deal with the consequences. And I was 17, I thought everything was very easy and but now it's great. I'm so happy that I took that made that bold move. And I did spend 10 years in the kitchens of New York City, sort of doing both things and trying to, and now I'm doing music full time and it's so exciting.
That's such a big feat. That is like to hear that you used to, work the kitchens and of all the things in New York. Now you're just committed to full time. You're like, I can quit the kitchen thing.
I quit like I think 2 years ago, and I was like, right before
So
pandemic. I
recent.
like
That's so
a year
recent.
before pandemic. I was like completely out. I did part time for a while, a lot of just work, right?
Hmm.
But and I actually love cooking. It's one of my great pleasures in life is like food, drink, music. It's like all the pleasures, right? But it really formed me in like a disciplined kind of way. I also got to work with a lot of immigrants who, when I would tell them I was from Nogales, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I know a thing about Nogales." Like a lot of immigrants who went through there and in order to get here, and so it gave me just a different perspective in life. I'm very grateful for that phase, for that etapa. But now, yeah, music is what I do, and I love it. And songwriting is my favorite thing in the world, and I think it's a place of power where you can
Yes.
really make change.
It is when you can create your own stories now. You hear so many stories growing up in music, but now you're the author of your own. And that's kind of my next question, bouncing off that you said that you were trying to study also political science. Did you end up studying it a little bit, maybe like minoring it while in college? Because your music really aligns with like a lot of it in the sense that you're bringing forward this awareness of communities that don't often have a voice.
Yeah, I actually have done a lot of sort of self-teaching. Like I read a lot of Angela Davis, and like I love her, and other things, stuff by also like Mexican poets, and just I love reading. I didn't actually minor in it because I went to college in Mexico, and Mexico doesn't have like that like major minor system.
Oh, interesting.
You choose like your licenciatura and that's what you're doing. And so mine was a music school. I did have like art history and like I learned Italian, I learned French because I was a singing major. So that also I think opened me up to like a lot of other cultures and how they have done things. And but yeah, but I mostly love reading and self-teaching. And also one of my partners or ex-partners was a social scientist, was a PhD in social sciences. And so I think that also really sort of brought me into a world of just so much social knowledge, if you will, or politically inclined knowledge. But my family's always been very political, not always left leaning, but nonetheless involved in local politics. And so that really also shaped the way that I see the world.
Yeah, and it's really an interesting conversation to have when you have opposing views or just like the social science too, how people act and why they act this way. I always love getting into those conversations and reading about it. I'm sure it's more interesting.
I have a lot of friends who are like my good friend Audrey Funk, who had me on stage with her at Celebrate Brooklyn, is a philosopher, and then
Wow.
Elaine, who's a rapper, is a sociologist, and we had a feat together, the three of us actually called
Yeah.
Diosa, which I'm also going to sing for you. And so having those people surrounding me, even though I didn't end up majoring in political science or sociology or philosophy, it really does you learn so much, just hearing them talk and like asking for book recommendations and stuff. So yeah, it's a good bunch of people.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I love when you have smart friends.
Yeah.
Let's take the first pause of the interview. Let's hear a song. What song do you want to play first?
I kind of want to start with our anthem. Should we do that?
Yeah, I love that song.
Let's do it. This is the new song that's just out. I, like you were saying earlier, I'm from the border, the US Mexico border. And growing up in that context really shaped me. I didn't realize it until I left that piece of land, until I was in New York, that I realized how particular it was to have grown between two cultures and two languages. And so I wrote this song sort of about that reality and, racism and border policy and all of those things.
Cool.
Have you heard the news, my love? They want a wall, but fences are just cages. In denial, when hate seduces fear, and bodies fall, the silence left is real. It feels so wrong, but we'll be standing straight and tall. We'll wave our flag up in the smile will be my love affair. You, the one with all the friends and fears, and I, the one with ancient pain and tears. We'll fight for what we think is true, and if we must, we'll fly to make it through their cloud of dust, and we'll be standing straight and tall. We'll wave our flag up in the air for all the uphill battles won. Your smile will be my love affair. De un lado de la línea me dicen que soy gringa, but on this other side I know I need to have ID on me. Mi piel es pasaporte peligroso ante la ley. Deporting melanin makes them feel sovereign, so they pray. Arriba esas vecinas que cuidaban mi jardín, when blue uniforms with guns said I was privileged to come back in. El muro es un tumor y la cura en nuestras manos. Courageous neighbors pulling ropes in from the Rio Bravo. You raised my voice, vecino. Earth was born without fronteras. Restitch this map conmigo, bordando blankets de broken banderas. And we'll be standing straight and tall. We'll wave our flag up in the air for all the uphill battles won. Your smile will be my love affair. Your eyes will be my green grass. Your arms will slowly take me there. Your smile will be my love affair.
You so much for playing that. Oh my God. That gave me chills. It's packed of great liners in there. I love it. It's hard to pinpoint which one's your favorite, but it's like at the top of the song, it just says borders or fences are like cages in denial. I really like that one. And then also smile is our love affair. You got to kill people with kindness, you know. I took that as that. But I want to know what was the moment that song came to your head? Were you at some place special? Were you crossing borders maybe, or were you just seeing what was on the news going on that inspired you to write that song?
Ooh, so it's actually a really like fuerte, like really deep personal story. I was dating somebody in Mexico and I was living in New York. And, it was really hard because like they were in a small town and I remember just it was hard to be like a lesbian couple in that town. And so eventually as time went by, we decided to like move in together and I was like, I think New York is a better place for us as like a queer couple. And then, we started making plans for that. And then Trump won. And the rhetoric was so bad. And I just felt so guilty in a way, which is weird because like I didn't vote for him, but you know what I mean? So it was just I sort of got it out in that way. It's a song of longing. Obviously, it's a song of two places that you love because I think it's easy for people to really hate on the United States, unfortunately. But I'm very proud also to be Mexican and to be American. There's so many beautiful things in both cultures that are a part of me. And so I wrote the song trying to reconcile both of those identities. Originally, it didn't have that rap version in it, but I was asked to write a spoken word part for a play that was at the Public Theater by Chiara Alegria Judes, who also wrote In the Heights. And so she and Aaron McKeown, the composer, invited me to go on stage to Joe's Pub and do a spoken word thing because it was a border identity show called, híjole, ¿cómo se llamaba? Miss You Like Hell. It was a border identity show called Miss You Like Hell. And so I did the spoken word and then I loved it and I was like, I don't want it to just like stay on this one time stage performance. And it started to really resonate with our anthem. And that was sort of like the last thing that I did for the song, which was like 4 years later. I was like, I'm just going to throw this rap into it because it totally belongs there. And it made it on the album like that. So yeah, that's the story of our anthem.
That's super cool. I also kind of like that one because it's kind of it's still it's still kind of it's folky, but it
Mm-hmm.
isn't Mexican folky. It's more like country folky, right?
Totally country, Americana, like that kind of vibe, which is something that people really listen to, like in Arizona, where I'm also from, you know. And I didn't like my family, that they didn't really listen to this kind of music, but it was around me, and the ranching culture was very much around me, and you know. So I feel like it's really funny to me because I feel like there's this one outfit on both sides of the border, and I actually love like Tejanas, like, you know, my vaquero shirts and stuff. But I
Hmm.
feel like the music is so different, like in, you know, in Texas than in Chihuahua, or in Arizona than in Sonora, you know. And I try to bring both of those things into my music when I can.
Yeah, I love it, and it's a little punky too, in the sense that it's a song about flipping flipping heads, you know, like flipping the status quo. Did you listen to a lot of punk when you were growing up?
I was a really big on metal. I
Ah,
did have a punk phase for sure, especially like the way I dressed and stuff. I was very much when I was a young again when I went to college. I think I became exposed to so many different ideas and to so much diversity that wasn't necessarily around me growing up, and I really took to that. I was like, ooh, like I like the weirdos, and I started hanging out with like the rebels.
yeah, yeah,
And it really became, who I was. Like I'm dressed in pink now, but for like 10 years probably I would only wear black, and
that's
that kind of
funny.
thing. And the teenage angst was real, but it was channeled through music and through activism and through all of that stuff. So,
Yeah, and now you're playing rebel music in a sense. It sounds traditional, but it's definitely rebel music.
oh, a lot of people have been upset, and I'm saying this in the best way. Like I like that making people uncomfortable because I think we have to. Like,
Yeah,
if we're too comfortable in a system that is unfair and unjust, then we are being part of that. How could we not care about kids in cages? Like we have to talk about this so that people know it's happening. And I think sometimes we are so much in our little worlds. Like I'm a queer feminist, right? And I'm an immigrant, even though I was born in the States, I still, moved very far away from home, and it's been a different reality. And so to speak of all those things, I do think is a thing that rebels do, but for the common good, right? Because if there are people being oppressed, then nobody is truly free, if that makes any sense. At least that's how I view the world. So that's why I
yeah,
bring that into my music.
it's true. And there's this one lyric that I always refer to when I think of people making great rebel music is that you have a rebel fist with a golden heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that that speaks true about you, is that you're trying to bring awareness to people of what's happening to everyone else. And yeah, you got to make people uncomfortable because there's already other people uncomfortable. So why not yourself too, and in a mental type of way, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, I do. And I think music is so generous in that way, because if I would like stand in front of people and be like, I'm gonna tell you why what you're thinking or doing is wrong, they would be like, no. Like they would just like, I don't know. Some people are great speakers too, public speakers, etc. Spoken word artists, what have you. But I think music is so generous and so beautiful. Like I think you could say anything with a pretty melody, and it would just be easier to accept in a way. Or like, and that's also it's dangerous and it's powerful. It's both things, right? It depends on what you do with it, because there's also a lot of people sending, not great messages in their music, and that's sort of also part of my activism, with like corridos and stuff, and rancheras, where they have before tried to say kill women, or hit your wife if she won't obey, stuff like that. Now I'm coming and saying, no, like, let me tell you a coming out story, or let's talk about the great activist Silvia Rivera, or,
Yeah,
and I think the sounds those sounds have been normalized to be certain things, violent and patriarchal, but they don't have to be. And that's sort of like what I'm trying to say with Resistor in my album, is that, we can put forth any message that we wish in these music genres, and we can really reclaim them to be ours as queer people, as women, as feminists, as immigrants, as, you name it, for the better. And sort of bring those things into a culture that hasn't always been very just, I guess.
Yeah, and putting it under a traditional veil type of way that people don't expect it, and they're listening to that. They're like, "Oh, this is a cool corrido," and then they listen to the lyrics, like, "Wait, there's something else behind this."
Mm-hmm.
Love that, love that. Let's get into a second break. Let's hear another song. What's the next song you want to perform for us?
Let's do it, Corrido De Silvia Rivera, since we're talking about it.
Yeah, let's do it. Awesome.
Voy a contar la historia de una mujer que fue justiciera. Aquí les va el corrido de su compita Silvia Rivera, que en las calles de Manhattan se la rifaba bien fiera. Era junio 28 en un oscuro bar clandestino. Todos bebían tranquilos, tranquilos, pero siempre escondidos. Les cayó la policía. Ser distinto era prohibido. Móchense con un varo, dijo la chota, muy al estilo. Pero gays y lesbianas ya estaban hartas, siempre lo mismo, que por amar libremente les hubieran reprimido. Silvia de pocas pulgas pensó, yo ya no les pago nada. Si yo trabajo duro y a mi nadita me lo regala. Dicen que tiro un ladrillo y otros dicen que el primer ladrillo lo tiró su compita Marsha. Y así los golpes volaron, todos sacaron su escuadra, la chota con macanazos, las chicas trans con su rabia. Tras días de enfrentamientos fue claro que algo cambiaba. Le quedó claro al Estado, le quedó claro a la prensa. Nosotras no nos callamos, no nos tenemos vergüenza. Amamos a quien amamos, entienda quien nos entienda. Silvia luchó hasta el final, aunque muy mal le pagaron. Ella quedó sin hogar y a Marsha la asesinaron. Pónganse truchas, mi gente, debemos reivindicarnos. No me pienso despedir sin alzar bien mi bandera. Viva la Christopher Street, viva la Silvia Rivera, LGBTTI, que vivan todas sus letras.
From her latest album, Resistor. Did that song get your hands clapping? Well, that was El Corrido de Silvia Rivera from Renee Goust. Thank you for playing that. I loved it. I was good thing I muted my mic because I was clapping along. I can't wait to see that like live with a bunch of people. Thank you for playing that, by the way.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me. This is such a good talk. Such a
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
time. I love doing songs live. It's y solita, like with my guitar. It's so different, you know. I feel like there's so much freedom. Like sometimes I like make it a little slower. Sometimes I make it a little thing longer. I love. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for having me.
yeah, you're a great performer. It's just like watching you play on your acoustic here and through the Zoom. You have so much like you're so animated. I love it.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about the like maybe the behind the scenes of this song? Like when did it come to you? You're like, when's the moment you're like, I want to write about this person. I want to write about this activist.
So actually, I made this album thanks to the help of the city of New York. I won a grant, the first time they've ever done grants for music for women.
No way.
They've done a
Wow.
bunch of, so like 2 years ago, they started doing something called the Women's Fund. And they had, well, I shouldn't say maybe they didn't start 2 years ago, but they expanded it to like theater, visual arts, whatever. Es artes escénicas. I'm so pocha, like sometimes I forget the words in one language, but you know what I mean, like stage
Yes.
art. And so in 2020, they did it for music for the first time. And I was so excited. And I was going on tour. And I got so nervous because I was like, will I have time? But anyway, I submitted the grant with this proposal of bringing these narratives to folk music genres, and I ended up getting the grant. And so, sort of as a way of, I guess, paying it back to the city and to the big icons of the city, I was like, I want to write about somebody who like did cool stuff and important things in New York. And I started to research, and I was like, I love Marsha and Sylvia. They're such iconic figures for the LGBT movement. And I didn't feel as comfortable writing about Marsha just because she was like a black trans woman, and Sylvia being a Latinx, a trans and queer person, I just felt more aligned, I guess, to her story, and more like it was my place to maybe talk about it. And I invited La Bruja de Texcoco, who is a trans woman in Mexico, to sing this song with me because, corridos usually have two voices
Mm.
that are sung in harmony from beginning to end. And so the whole story is told in two voices. And at least in the norteño tradition, obviously corridos have come from the age of the Mexican Revolution. And so, sometimes just a single person would sing them. But in my norteño tradition, it's two voices. And so I was like, I can't tell the story by myself. I need to tell it with a trans woman. And so that's sort of the story of El Corrido de Silvia Rivera. I love the whole, I go to the Stonewall Inn all the time. It's like our late night bar for after parties. And so it's so crazy to me, the things that happened not so long ago. I mean, it was really like 50 years ago, 52 years ago that the uprising happened, and it's changed so much for our lives. To imagine a life where you are forced into being closeted and scared. And I know that some places, unfortunately, still live in that reality, but I'm really grateful to Sylvia and Marsha and all the great activists at Stonewall in that made this possible for us. I do live in New York City, and it's a city that I really love. I've lived here since 2007, and I do feel like I'm a New Yorker. And so I just wanted to write about the great things that have come out of here, and especially of queer people, of trans women who are so violently attacked just in general. It's like the number one, I guess, people who just receive more attacks, and their mortality rates are so high, within the LGBTQIA plus community, that I thought it was important to do it, and to do it in this genre specifically. It just felt powerful to me. I heard so many stories of drug lords and so many stories of
Mm-hmm.
like crimes and ballads, and who are like crímenes de pasión, we say in Spanish, like, hey, they are being celebrated in this music. And I wanted to celebrate something beautiful. I wanted to celebrate someone who I consider to be a true hero. And that's why El Corrido de Silvia Rivera came about. And I think the people at the New York Foundation for the Arts loved it because it was written into my grant proposal. And I think it just resonated with them.
It's beautiful. It is a great story, and someone who isn't part of the community, but also loves to learn about the community and just all these different stories of POC and intersectionality. I loved it because it taught me something new, and it gave me a cool story to listen to. And now I'm much more knowledgeable of who Silvia Rivera is, especially as a Latinx person myself too. You know,
Yay, I love that. That's the whole point of the song, you know. A lot of people, and even, I mean, people who are really in the community will know her name, but even some people like in Mexico who are more familiar with the community there, you know, and the icons there, like Nancy Cardenas and like a whole bunch of other people who push the movement forward, are not always very familiar with maybe again like Silvia, and so it's been a good bridge. I think it's been exciting.
yeah, and your team up with La Bruja de Texcoco is beautiful. Your both your voices just mesh so well. It's seamless, but you can tell like it harmonizes really well and carries the song all the way through. And it's not like it's two different voices, but it's not like jarring or anything. You know what I
She's
mean?
such a beautiful person. We had such a fun time. We made a music video in Xochimilco in Mexico.
It's a beautiful one. I love you guys just going down the river and on the boats, the beautiful boats going through there. It's a great video.
Yeah, it's a really classic part of like Mexico City, and people. I mean, obviously we go there for tourism. I didn't grow up in Mexico City, so I would go there for tourism. But that later I learned that office people even would like after work or on Fridays would like hang out there, and even students who like cut class would just go and like drink beers there. And so I just wanted to make it really hybrid and be like, okay, like Corrido, Mexico City, Bruja de Texcoco. Also, her work is very much tied to the Mexican roots and like
Hmm.
wearing outfits from like different indigenous groups, etc. And so I thought it would just sort of be like an homage, right? Like to my Mexicanness, but also bringing Silvia to, you know, to other people and to other territories.
Yeah, both of you look great in that video. You with your I forget what it's called. Yes, the sombrero, but also the I
Like,
forget what it's called.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love bolo ties. I love
Yes.
all of that stuff.
And
Yeah.
your cincho.
Yes, with the R.
Uh-huh. Love it.
Thank
I want to know what was like the first song that kicked off this album? What was like the song that you're like, all right, this is the one that kicks things off. I'm like ready to start an album now.
I have to say Diosa probably, even though it wasn't the first one that I wrote. You know, our anthem I wrote in 2015, for example. So
Hmm.
that has been with me for actually 2013 probably. That one has been with me for a long time.
Wow, I can't believe that.
And it's been changing through the years, you know. There, I actually used to have a video of it probably in 2013, and then I was like, no, it's not ready, and I pulled it out. You know, I pulled it off, and then I added the rap to it, and then I added, and then the arrangement that you hear on the album is really new, like the surf section and the cumbia section. All of that stuff I added just for the album. Like I sat down and I was like, let's arrange this. Like let's arrange the heck out of it. And but before it used to be just like folk throughout, which was really nice, but like I don't know, I love changing genres in one song. And I
Hmm.
did that for Diosa too. But I remember that I knew I was making an album when I wrote Diosa because I invited Audrey and Rebecca, and I was like, this can't just be a single. Like, this has to be part of something bigger. And I started to look for other songs that I had in my repertoire, put them in a little folder, and be like, would they go well together? And then I wrote a bunch of songs just for the album as well. Like, Corrido De Silvia Rivera was written just for the album. You know, what's another one that I wrote just for the album? La Apuesta is something that I wrote just for the album. When I realized that I wanted to make like a queer album of folk sounds, I definitely put myself to write. I would have to say, yeah, Diosa. But there's other songs like Abre la Ventana is really new and it's about the pandemic, kind of like that feeling of being trapped inside a room and the only connection to the outer world was the window. That was also very much for the album. And so, yeah, most of them are quite new. I have to say the older ones are Anthem and probably Baltimore to Brooklyn. Also, I wrote like in 2019.
Okay.
And the rest of them are like quite new. A una mujer, I really love. Yeah.
I'm also a little curious. I was hearing your older stuff. You were kind of delving into the indie folk genre, but when did you like have like the epiphany or the aha moment where I'm like, you want to tackle more traditional Mexican music?
I really believe in songwriting as like a genre, if that makes it like not a genre, but like a power force. And I consider myself to be a songwriter. And I really can't say that I'm gonna get married to like regional Mexican or
No.
just
Hmm.
folk. And I keep saying this because I feel like it's really easy for people to be like, oh yeah, like she's the ranchera singer,
No.
or and but for me, I at least self-identify as a songwriter above all things, and that's why I have like cumbias and corridos
Hmm.
and rancheras and yeah, like maybe I'm not like a rapper, right? Like I don't go all the way. You have to have some sort of limits. Even though I do have some reps, but
Hmm.
but I have to say like whatever helps express, at least for me in that moment, whatever helps express like the feeling better is what I usually go for. I have some stuff that is more South American genres. Like there's a bunch of stuff in my demos closet that will come out later, and there's a lot of stuff that's a lot more mellow too. Like I would love to put out an album that's just acoustic or like just guitar and
Yeah.
vocal. So I have to say like it was more of a political message for me in this album. Growing up I used to be very good at singing like cuckoo, like Cucuru Cuckoo Paloma, and
Oh.
just classics like boleros, and my family always used to say like you should really look into that. And I never really took it seriously because I was like wanting to do punk and metal
Hmm.
and stuff like that. That was more fun to me. I was like 19 and just wanted to get it all out. But my training does come from there. The first singing lessons that I took when I was 16, I learned all the classics. I learned, Besame Mucho and all of that. And so Diosa is actually kind of a bolero disco rap thing. And so for me, it's more about escribir canciones, like I'm a songwriter. And I think I borrow the genre that needs to be borrowed to tell the message that I need to tell. So that's why Resistor is a folk album, because we need more queer and feminist narratives in folk music and traditional regional Mexican music, and yeah, that's why I decided to do that.
Yeah, you're like there's something missing in your own culture, I guess, right? That's where that need came from.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, being queer in Mexico is not easy. A lot of people go through really unfortunate situations, and I think music has helped to normalize some of these things. We have great, extremely famous singers who are openly homophobic. And I was like, well, I want to be openly queer, like in the same music genre, because we need to balance the energy, I think, just create a little repertoire. And also, like, I love drinking to rancheras. So I was like, I don't want to drink to like the bad ones, the
Yeah,
ones that have like
exactly.
a
The one
weak
that
women.
narcos and
If I,
abuse and
exactly.
just
If I
the
have to write them
toxic
myself,
masculinity.
if I have to write them myself, then I will. And I always joke that when I'm like whatever 70 or 80, I want to just like have a big party and just play LGBT rancheras and feminist cumbias and like basically like my life legacy, and just like have a big party and not have to listen to 17 años, which is like a rape cumbia. You know what I mean? Like I just yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Like I was saying earlier, you're the author, you're a songwriter, and you're able to take control now. You have that platform now, and you made Resistor with that, and now you have cemented yourself into the Mexican regional music for at least the LGBT community, and then hopefully more will follow and sing along with it, even though they don't identify themselves as that. Because I'll definitely be dancing along to it, you know.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the power of music, right? Like it can move hearts, it can move
Hmm.
minds, it can move. I have had people come up to me after shows and be like, I have one instance that I always like to share. It's very specific. I sang a song called El Vals de Doña Teresita, which is actually a bonus track on my album if you get it through Bandcamp. And it's
Oh,
a
cool.
collaboration with Vivir Quintana, who wrote Canción Sin Miedo and has done really well in her career. And it's also in the physical copies of Resistor, which are gonna launch very soon. I'm so excited about that. And so after a show, the first time I played it live, I remember it was like 2015, I think. This lady comes up to me and says, "Is that song about your life?" And I was like, "I mean, kind of like, all of them are." And it's a song about how being super conservative is I guess, just really harmful to your children who are gay. Like, and so she came up to me and she said, you know, my daughter came out of the closet a few weeks ago, and I've been really struggling to accept her, but after hearing that and knowing she's, because I'm worried that she's going to be mistreated, and you know, and after hearing your song and your story and seeing that you were like fine and you're just having a, you know, she was like, I feel so inspired to support her, and I just cried,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
because
Yeah, you touched some
that's
hearts.
the power of music, you know. And even one of my musicians in the album Resistor also shared with me a story of one of her family members who's in the closet and can't feel like it's time to come out. And again, she was like, she's so young, but like seeing that you're older and you're doing fine, it inspires me. And there were also a lot of tears exchanged. And so music is such a powerful force. And I didn't have anyone to look up to when I was super young, and recognizing myself as queer. And I want to be, and now I know like a bunch of people are out, you know, like Lil Nas X is like kissing men on national television.
Mm-hmm.
It's different times. But in regional Mexican music, I don't find that there's enough representation. And if you want something to be changed, I mean, que mejor, like change it yourself, you know, like if you have the power of changing something, do it. And that's what I'm trying to do with this album.
Yeah, and congratulations on that. I really appreciate those efforts, and just helping people. You know, you're helping people in the world, and you're mending it to be a better way, a better place.
Oh, thank you, Byron. I really appreciate those words.
Yeah, I love your album. I love your album. Let's get into the last song of the interview. Which ones are you gonna drop us off with?
I'm gonna play Diosa because it's what I do think really gave shape. And as soon as I wrote it, I was like, "This is track number 1 on the album." It's something about it. I wanted to start with the divine, with like the feminine divine. You know, when you're raised as a woman, you're taught so many things that are not really good for you. Like you are made, and not everyone, but like in general, popular culture, you're made to think that you need someone to take care of you, or that you need X amount of things that I don't believe are true. And so in this song, I wanted to say, I am my own goddess. And I above all believe in myself, basically, is the message of Diosa.
Yeah, self-empowerment there.
Soy los frutos y la semilla, soy el pistilo en la flor que desdobla su cuello y saluda al sol. Enredadera en el muro, naturaleza que trepa tan alto y germina la inspiración. Soy divinidad infinita, camino de curvaturas que esculpen los ríos en el cañón. Soy todos los manantiales, agua de sal cristalina nacida del centro de mi creación. Cuando me preguntan si soy religiosa, yo siempre contesto, soy mi propia diosa. Cuando me preguntan si soy religiosa, yo siempre contesto, soy mi propia diosa. Soy mi propia voz, soy mi propia diosa, soy la revolución. Soy cuerpo de valles y montes, soy polvo de las estrellas maternas que velan mi evolución. Aliento cálido y fuerte, hija de sangre valiente y amor soberano que lucha marcha. Cuando me preguntan si soy religiosa, yo siempre contesto, soy mi propia diosa. Soy mi propia voz, soy mi propia diosa, soy la revolución. Diosa, 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 soy mi propia diosa, soy mi propia voz, soy mi propia diosa, soy la revolución. Diosa, 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 diosa.
A beautiful, beautiful acoustic version of Diosa from Renee Goust from her new album Resistir, which is available everywhere now. It's an album of 8 beautiful songs you can find everywhere, like I just said. So thank you, Renee. Thank you for playing that song. I do want to end the interview with a few questions to get to know you just a little bit more personally, a little bit. First question. What was an album you couldn't stop listening to when you were growing up?
Pies Descalzos by Shakira. Pies Descalzos, Sueños Blancos was really, really, really what marked that the fact that I wanted to be a songwriter.
Mm, that was such a fast answer too. How many times have you answered that question?
I don't know. I don't even think that I've answered it that many times. It's so clearly ingrained in my mind, you know. I remember that there's a part where she says like, saludar al vecino, acostarse una hora. Like she's talking about just all the things that she thinks are BS and that she has to put herself through. And it's just, to me, there was social critique in that. And it really resonated with me. I was like, yeah, screw that. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
guess I was always a little punk, you know, when I was 8 years old. And I bought that cassette. It was a cassette. And I just played it until it fell apart for real. Like, I loved that album.
That's awesome. That's so cool. What was the first concert you ever attended?
The first, Pablito Ruiz.
Pablito Ruiz? I don't even know who
Yeah,
that is.
I was a super tiny kid, but the first maybe preteen concert I went to was Cava.
I don't even know who that is either.
Cava, they're like Mexican pop, very mainstream Mexican pop.
Okay.
And they had the song like La Calle de las Sirenas. Does that
No,
sound
I haven't heard it.
familiar?
No.
I'll send it to you so you can laugh.
I'm also Guatemalan, so I didn't get much of the Mexican side of things.
Yeah, it was super mainstream, super famous. And I remember my dad took us and he was like, my brother and I were falling apart because we used to do their choreographies, you know? They were like these, like, kind of like a boy band, but it was like a mixed band.
Uh-huh.
So they had like all the dance steps and stuff.
That's
and
fun. So you used to do the TikTok dances before they were even
before
TikTok.
they were even a thing. We were the original TikTokers.
That's funny. You can only find it in home videos now.
I have those VHS tapes and I have promised myself I'm going to transfer them to electronic and do something with them, at least like a music video or something, because I
That'd
have
be
a
fun.
bunch of them.
You can have you as a kid and then kind of like, you know, transition effect as you as an adult.
Adult, yeah. That would be fun.
That sounds fun. What is one of your favorite foods?
I eat so much and I love it. Like guacamole is a very obvious one. I love a good fried chicken wing, but it has to be really crispy. And then chilaquiles for breakfast have got to be
Yum.
one of my favorites.
Yum.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Truffles,
Awesome.
they have to be red for me.
Oh, okay. I like both. I like
Yeah.
both. If fried chicken, talking about fried chicken, just because a quick note, have you tried Korean fried chicken yet?
I love Korean fried chicken.
That's like the crispiest, right?
My mouth just watered for real. Those flavors, like I love Asian flavors like sesame seeds, obviously, soy sauce, ginger, all of those
The
flavors.
chili paste and all that. It's amazing, right?
So good. It's so good.
Awesome. Last question, just because your last name, well, your artist last name is Ghost. Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in spirits for sure. I think, and energies especially. Like, have you ever walked into the room and you're like, "Ooh, I don't want to be at this party," like, or or like something, you know, like a meeting or something. Like I think people carry a lot of energy with them, and that is very contagious. Like I believe that there are even things as intense as like energetic vampires. Like there are people that can be really draining for your life, to be around them and stuff. So yeah, I think the answer is yes, I do.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for letting us get to know you more, Renee, and thank you for a little more insight on your new album, Resistor. I wish you a ton of luck in the future, and I know you just released a new album, but I'm always waiting for new music from you now, just because now I'm addicted. I'm a fan.
Yes, I'm thinking of putting up more stuff, not in the super far away future. But for anybody who hasn't listened to Resistor, please check it out. It's everywhere and every music service, and there's a bunch of videos up as well. We made a 4 music videos, I think, have come out so
Yeah.
far. 5. We would just released one on September 10th. And I'm playing Andersonville Homecoming in Chicago on September 25th. So if you live in Chicago, check it out. Come check us
Yeah.
out live.
Yeah, go check out her YouTube. She has a cool little mini documentary on how she made El Corrido de Silvia Rivera as well. It's a really cool one. Good little insight on her creation process.
Yeah, come check out the interview. The album is made, I always like to say this, is made 100% by women and non-binary people. I wanted to put the Women's Fund in the hands of women. And so I just think it's good to support. If you really believe in inequality, you know, the balance is so off still in the music industry. And so, you know, come support an album made by queer people, made by women. And I hope you'll like it.
Yeah, she's over here making strides to balance it out. And also remember, she has an extra bonus track on her Bandcamp. So go check that out. It's easy. You just Google Renee Goust Bandcamp. Bam. First option.
Yeah,
Um,
and also Ghost is spelled Goust. I always like to say Renee Ghost and spell it out because it's not always obvious. So like ReneeGoust. Follow me on social media as well. I'm super active on Instagram and Twitter. Very controversial on Twitter.
controversial but fun.
But fun. Yeah, fun, controversial, of course.
Yeah, always. Well, thank you so much, Renee. I hope you have a wonderful day today. Can you just say goodbye to my audience once more?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Byron. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope we'll be able to catch each other live soon. And until next time.
Until next time. Adiós, Renee. Ahí te cuidas.
Igualmente, cuídate. Muchas gracias.
Adiós. Ciao.
Bye.